Boom, we're live. It's Bonding with Board Games. So I'm coming in a little impromptu. Heck, it always probably feels a little impromptu, which is fine. That's how the vlogs are supposed to go. But let's address the first part of the title first. Jim Dunnigan. So Dan Masterson works with Jim and Austin Bay and some other folks at Strategy Talk, which is a podcast, great podcast, by the way, and Strategy Page. Strategy Talk is talking about history kind of as if it's a board game that you're able to play through, play out. And they've been doing a cool thing. Dan was watching what we were doing on Hamtag, what I was doing, Hamtag. It's always Hamtag. What I was doing with interviewing folks from Avalon Hill. And it was funny because I reached out to Jim Dunnigan directly because of Jutland in 1914, his work with Tom Shaw. And Jim replied back that they were doing their own thing, copied in Dan. Dan came on the show. And I will put a link down in the description for the Strategy Talk episode. But they think maybe they'll be wrapping up in 2 to 3 shows, whatever they want to do. They're in control. Talking about Jim Dunnigan's history with board games and SPI and his designs and things. And Dan brought up on their show that they'll take questions, which he'd asked me about, from fans of Bonding with Board Games or fans that are on Bonding with Board Games. So Dan will come on and we'll discuss kind of the series he's been working on. And Van Overbay is in. Let me put that up. Cool. We're going to leave you up there, Van. And then they'll talk about those questions on Strategy Talk. So that's a podcast. Again, I'll put the link to that down in the description so you can look at that or click on that if you're interested. They do like current events from what feels to me like a board gamer, war gamer mind frame. And then, of course, they're doing Jim Dunnigan's history right now. So that is a very, very cool thing. Let me take that back off. Van first on. Very cool. 3 eyeballs in. Oh, before I go too much further, we had a fan that said he doesn't like the cowboy hat. He thinks it wrecks the show. He thought I had a great episode, but the cowboy hat wrecked the show. And I've noticed I've been wearing the cowboy hat an awful lot, probably more than normal. And the fan probably doesn't know that I also used to wear this hat right here. Look at that. That is what I call the Rainbow Coalition. So that started on the Scotch show. Ooh, it's a little dusty. That started on the Scotch show. I think I need white ballots here. Started on the Scotch show because we were picking up an old shirts at Goodwill. You can find some funny shirts. And my co-host, White Balance, see if that helps. Not really. Picked this up and said, I bet you wouldn't wear this on the show. Bet I would. And I bought it and I wore it on the show. And I used to wear it to cons back in the old days when we used to go to those things where I always got some kind of sickness, not the vid, but I got it. Not the Rona, but I got it. And even Aldi at BGG started coming up with the fist bump or the elbow bump way before the Rona. He digs that. Now, if you don't like this, I wore this one on the show once. Look at this. You'll see my bald spot as I transition. Wore that. Little bit of Pikachu. Little bit of Pikachu on the show. Yeah, Judd does need a top hat. Judd actually will wear his Pope hat every once in a while. So Pikachu, I'm not sure if Pikachu's been on the board game show, but Pikachu has been on the Scotch show before, which a lot of Scotch fans like, what are you doing? Doing whatever. My show. Wearing a Pikachu hat. And the actual idea was that I don't take the whiskey so serious. When I got into, by the way, this is Wild Turkey Rare Breed, one of the best and very affordable bourbons that you get a hold of. When we started doing Scotch Desk Dummies, the whiskey show, some people were a little stuffy. They took it too serious, says I. And I decided not only is the Scotch Whiskey Show not that serious, although we do give our honest opinions, visual whimsy was necessary. And to show that we don't take ourselves too serious. Nor do I take ourselves, nor does Judd take ourselves too serious here on Bonding with Board Games. Our goal is not to exclude, it's to include. And so we want all peoples to come in that might like board games in general, and maybe the niche within the niche, my own catchphrase, of war games. War, that's right, conflict games. I grew up in Conifer, it was called Evergreen, but I was much closer. Some may know where Evergreen, Colorado is, much closer to Conifer. And I went to school at West Jeff Junior High, which was near Aspen Park. All these little towns. I had board games, started luckily playing when I was 13, couldn't really find anybody. And maybe played a lot of solitaire, but maybe was not sure this was something kids did. I remember thinking it was what grown-ups did. And when I was like 40, I remember thinking, I want to try some whiskey, but that's what grown-ups do. And I'm 40. And then I thought, that's stupid. And thus was born the show. That's just water, but I am going to put some whiskey in. Now, we'll come back to Jim Dunnigan and Dan Masterson in a second. But before we do, there was a point on the show where I wore this hat. This, when like that, looks ridiculous. When tucked over like this, it's a Highland tam, which maybe still looks a little bit ridiculous. And usually I style it up a little bit more. Anybody that's been around knows that my sister has a show called, I can't remember, it's a knitting show. It'll come to me. She has a knitting show, and she made this Scottish tam for me, and she knew we went over to the Highlands for the whiskey show in Scotland, and so she made this, and then I went on her show. Now, Van, you are great on commenting, so we're going to come back over here to right on. Oh, look at this. He lived in Fort Collins for a while. Awesome. Yeah, it was great. You could always, if you got lost down in the city, you could just look toward the mountains, and you knew you were looking west, and then you could work your way to wherever you went. Now, everybody's got a smartphone with directions. You don't need those little things anymore. But you could look west and determine your location. So I never felt lost in Denver, except when I was down in the original part of town where a bunch of streets go sideways because they were designed by people from the Netherlands or something. I don't know. They laid their streets out on a diagonal rather than on the grid, and they run into each other because they originally didn't. But of course, now they do. So 5 people are seeing this hat. And I actually like this hat. I need to wear this out sometime. But you know, there'll be some mockery. By the way, I got the beard rocking. So I wore this hat on a few shows. So maybe you don't like the cowboy hat, but maybe this is more your jam. There's one more I'll show here in a second that has been featured on a few shows that my wife bought me for Christmas and said, I bet you don't wear this on the show. And nobody seemed, my family and friends, close friends, don't seem to understand the theme, or maybe they do. If you tell me you won't do X on the show, I'll do it. So maybe that's their way of making me do it. So back to Jim Dunnigan while I'm wearing my Scottish tam. We're going to have some questions for him. Now, ideally, you'll listen to that show. It's about an hour long. He talks about some of his designs. He talks about they actually pull some of the other folks that are on the show about some of their, what they thought were their favorite designs. I knew about 1914 Avalon Hill, and now I can't remember the name of it. On the show, he talks about, he then worked on, I think it's called World War I. And he worked on and really cleaned it up. It's something like 7 pages of rules, which is intriguing to me, on Strategy and Tactics in the Magazine. Apparently, I think it's a magazine game. I don't even know. I didn't look it up. Apparently, it's still going for some pretty good money on the secondary market. And that was interesting. And then they even talked about how some companies are reprinting some of the older games. They get into a little bit of some of the computer game stuff, but it's very, very interesting. What's amazing is I don't even know how old Jim is. He was talking about, I know when I was interviewing Tom Shaw, I think they met in like 68. And Jim talks about being in the Army. And so I'm putting him at 75 plus. My apologies if I'm wrong, Jim, but I don't think I am. And so there's some great history there. So go listen to Strategy Talk to pick up on some of that. And if you have any questions for Jim Dunnigan, get ready. I will have Dan Masterson on. We'll go live, I think. Sometimes Dan wants to just pre-record, but we'll see. I'll talk him into a live. I think I can get him into a live. Dan's also working toward. He wants to come on with me, and we're going to work through the history of solitaire games. I'm a huge solitaire gamer. That's what brings me into the hobby. And Dan is way more locked in kind of with his study of the history and his information, whereas most of you know I'm all over the place. Hence the hat, hence the whiskey. Nathanael Robinson. Hi, Bart. Strange time to stream. Hope all is well. It is a strange time to stream, but is it ever really? I think it's always a good time to stream. I had some time. I'm off Mondays, and nobody's around, so you don't hear the grandkids or anything else. And I thought I actually need to shoot some whiskey stuff. And I thought before I do that, let me throw up a little board game deal. And to be quite honest, I should be either playing Apocalypse Road, which I'm looking at over there, or if I lifted the leaves off of that table, there sits B-17, and I need to do Mission 11 with my Hamtaggery Patreon crew. But I'm going to use a little more alliteration. I always use a lot, but a little bit more. Some of you know that in Mission 10, Ron Nicholson, who comes on the show a lot as a commenter, was wounded on this B-17. He's the co-pilot. He caught a round through the boot, the right boot, and his foot was mildly injured, light wound. And the crew and I now call him Right Boot Ron for whatever reason. And I'm going to extrapolate that in the next episode. Now, the guy that doesn't like my cowboy hat, he probably didn't like this Scottish Highlands tam either, but I bet you he really didn't like the Big Red Monster. Because the Big Red Monster is crazy and dusty, by the way. My eyes are going to be itching soon. So this has been on the show. So I was stunned when the fan, who will go nameless, did not like the cowboy hat. But I looked back through my thumbs and I thought, I have really gravitated toward the cowboy hat. I'm wearing it a lot. And I've got about 4 cowboy hats over there. And this is the straw cowboy hat with this turquoise imbued band. Leather band is the one I've been going to the point that I actually wore that on the plane to Ireland when we were flown over to Waterford to do some whiskey stuff. And then I wore it to all the distilleries because I'm 6'6", so I stand out, and I wore a cowboy hat, and people just knew something weird was up. And then a lot of people wanted to start putting on the cowboy hat. Maybe they'd seen the show, maybe they hadn't. So I think that's why I started gravitating toward the cowboy hat. Jon Edwards, 77. That's how old you are? Is that what you're saying? Or is that when you got into board gaming? What is that? Is that your year? Is that your birth year? Maybe you're younger than me by 7 years. So you're either way older, not way, I'm 50. You're way. Or you're 7 years younger. We've already got that Van lived in Fort Collins for a while. Awesome. we've got that I went to West Jeff Elementary, then shifted over to Marshdale, brand new school. Then I went to West Jeff Junior High. It was actually West Jefferson, but it was West Jeff. Then I went to Evergreen High School, and boom, that was my grade school years, for those that wanted to know. It was actually quite difficult. I'm in Wichita, Kansas now, so I moved back to where I was born. Didn't think I would do that. But when I was 8, we moved to the mountains of Colorado. I remember Star Wars that was out, and I hadn't seen it yet, but it came out while we were here, and then we moved, so everything was disrupted. And the schools in the mountains were harder than they are where I currently live, or at least they were when I was a kid. And I struggled. And a young gal named Melanie Graham, remember, I was in 2nd grade, I was in love with Melanie Graham, and I moved away from her. I was smitten and then moved. It was horrible. So I was like not doing well in school for about, I did okay, but it was like C average, and everybody was concerned. And then I got better in middle school or junior high. Van says he's vintage 67, summer love, baby. I added the baby part, little alliteration there as well. Good year, 67. My sister was born in 66. And it's funny, I asked my parents, I go, that was a pretty chaotic time. Clearly, you did not have a problem bringing young children into the world during Vietnam. And they said, correct. My dad has passed away. He was a Lutheran pastor, ordained, like 6'4", played college baseball. And here I was 6'6", and not very athletic. He was disappointed. Dad, do you want to play a board game about sports? I would prefer to do that than actually hit the ball. He was like, what? Yeah, that's right, Dad. I'd rather simulate the game than actually play it. Mm-hmm. Crazy. And I blame Tom Shaw for that. He played ball, but then he created all these simulations. And I was like, why play? Why practice when I could actually play the game? Pretend. There's my idea. So there's the big red monster. We're going to leave that on for a while. And the fan, hey, I know you don't like the cowboy hat. I don't know why. I don't know why you don't like Americana. All right. We'll bring that off. So let's see. We got 6 folks on. We're 18 minutes in. I'll tell you some things I'm working on. I still got to, I've got a program I need to go buy. I'm going to capture some video of Midway, actual movie trailers and stuff. Under the Fair Use Act, Judd and I have done a review of Midway, literally breaking down some scenes, our favorite stuff. And then at the very end, we touch on games that would allow you to play within that Midway history. My idea was, hopefully we catch people that like history via the cinema, Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, whatever. And then they go, oh, who are these guys? Board game what? They're goofy. And oh, there's games. So I like to read about it, maybe. I like to watch the movies, maybe. But I can play within that same genre? Yes. So that's our idea, along with the bonding with board games. However, the video's all cut, me and Judd doing our thing, but I want to add in the actual like Siskel and Ebert little clips of some of the things we talked about. And I'm not skilled in that. So I'm working on that now. I probably need to talk to, there's a couple experts I could probably talk to that would help me through that. But I think I have a good program. Let's see. What is Van here? Van's older brothers had him playing chess at age 3 or 4. Wow. Goodness. When I and my entire family were quarantined with COVID, I was feeling better, excuse me. And My older son wanted to play chess. I beat him the first game. I had never lost to him, and I had never beat my dad, and he knows that. So he's always wanted to beat me. Now, I'm no chess guy. I don't know moves, opening moves. I don't know certain things, whatever. It's just for fun. So I knew he was going to take me down because he's smart, but he got me. Our second game, he got me. He came in hard with a bishop and a queen, and I didn't create an escape route, and he pinned me. He yelled out, check, and then before I started to look, and he goes, checkmate, checkmate. And I was like, oh, my God. I go, no way. So he got me. Then I told him I was still delirious with the Rona, and he got mad. And then that night I told him, hey, remember this date. You beat me. He'll probably beat me 50 million times henceforth. So well, that is cool, Van. My opening world of gaming is vague but clear. I had to be like 4 or 3. I could sit on my dad's lap. So here's what would happen. We'd go to Iowa from the mountains of Colorado. My grandparents lived there. My dad grew up there, a small town. We would have these phenomenal dinners. I mean, they might as well. They were almost like, it's weird. I'm like, Dad, did you always eat like this? Like, yeah, because it was like Thanksgiving, but like every night. Like, hello, Grandma, how you doing this? And we would eat, and then everyone would take a break, clean up. Then it's kind of 1970s here, but the wives would then start to do like whatever the dessert was and get it all ready. And the guys would go break out the card tables. Then they would eat dessert, and then out would come the cards, and we would play spades and hearts and oh heck, because my grandparents didn't allow you to say oh hell, which was cursing. And I jumped on my dad's lap, saw him pitching cards. I think it was hearts, but it's hard to tell. Trick-taking game. And he would just tell me, he would point at a card that he had fanned out and then say, pitch that in. And I'd pitch it in. And sometimes it would land wrong. And he'd say, come on, get it in there right. And then pretty soon then he would have me holding the cards and picking it, throwing it. And then a few years go by, and now I'm like 7. And now I'm playing and pitching in cards. And that set me toward gaming big time. And then it was really cool when I got into the Army. There was a guy I got in. I was in a reserve unit, light infantry. I was a medic. And there's always hurry up and wait, but especially in ground pounders. And so we would be on downtime, and this group would come together. The deck of cards would come out. He could even save like everybody's hand in different pouches and stuff in Ziploc bags. And then we would take over our hand of spades, and we'd keep track and just go through. And it was awesome. It was awesome. So you guys, probably not most of you here, but you guys would be surprised about the gamers that are in the military. There's a lot. And not everybody, of course, but a lot of gamers, a lot of card play. Not gambling. I didn't see gambling any. Whenever I see World War II movies, they're always gambling. I didn't see any of that. Let's see. Vance says, my parents were rook players. I loved it too. Cool. Anybody else got any comments? I know I'm in on an odd time at 1 p.m. CST. Part of this was to preserve it to be watched later so people can start thinking about questions for Jim Dunnigan. I'm still working. I've got a phone number for Lou Zaki. Lou did several games for Avalon Hill, and he has game science, and he sells dice, and he still does that. And I've got a phone number for him. I reached out to the company. They said, yep, he'll come on the show, work out the details. I got a number, and I texted the number a couple times. I need to just cold call it and see if I can get a hold of Lou, and then get Lou on and see what we can do. Okay, I'm tired of the big red monster. We're going to go back to the cowboy hat. I kind of like Pikachu. Pikachu was all right. Look at that. All crooked. It's hard to do when you're using the monitor or the camera for your mirror. Everything's crooked. So let's see. You know what else is weird is Judd and I talked about what we're going to do and now I can't remember on the spot what our next show is going to be, and we discussed it too. Goodness, I can't remember. Maybe it'll pop back in once I quit thinking about it. So those are the big things: the hats, the Jim Dunnigan questions, and that's about it on a Monday. So let's see. Game Science dice are the best. Yeah, I've never actually had any of his dice, but I went and read a lot on him as I was getting ready, just hoping to interview. And I know I think he had a game shop or a game store, and he was selling TSR stuff. And he was saying, hey, can I get your dice from you? And I'll sell them here. And they were like, nope. And go make your own dice. So he figured out how to do it. And then he made really, really good dice. A little bit more expensive, but actually weighted properly. And even came up with the 100-sided die and created a little talk about a niche within a niche. So let's see. What have I been doing lately? I've got to do a deal for Dan Pancaldi because he wanted me to shoot a video on what I've been playing. And I said, Dan, it hasn't been war games. And he goes, I don't care. Do it. It's been Knizia. I've loved Knizia. I loved the Raw when Raw was new. I never got into Tigris and Euphrates, which is probably the closest to the war gamers seem to play a lot. But I love Medici, or that's my favorite. And I've picked up Medici dice, Medici card game. I'm in. I just got My City, which is I forget what they call them, polyagonals or whatever. I don't know, like Tetris pieces. But it's also got a legacy feel to it where you're putting stickers on a board, writing on the board. And I've been playing that with a couple. And that's been awesome. The other couple had the Rona. So it's like a Rona night. Nathanael, they've been sick already. So, and we do sanitize our hands. But we'll see. We use them D&D and Top Secret in the early 80s. Yeah, I had Top Secret. I had like 3 different modules for Top Secret. Trevor Just is in. Howdy, y'all. Howdy, Trevor. You missed my exchange of different hats. I'll have to watch that in post. So I've been playing tons of Knizia. I even went and picked up, it's a German edition, but it doesn't matter because there's no language on it. Money. And it's got a real cool deal where you shuffle it up. Everybody gets, I think, 6 cards. But then you peel out 4 cards onto the side of the deck. And then everybody comes up with a bid that's going to capture one of those 4. Number 1 takes whichever stack they want. But then if number 2 likes what the number 1 person put out, they can grab that instead of the other money bid. Very cool. Simple, casual filler. Perfect Knizia game. The way he does bidding is just awesome. He's got, and sometimes I feel like I'm not fully grokking his games because I grok it in Medici. There is a game of inside a game, and it involves the players. The actions are usually very simple. Now, I'm not saying every game, but the actions are very simple. The people you're playing are usually not. And so that's where the gameplay happens. What does Trevor say here? Going for a run, keep me company. Will do. Look at you getting in all kinds of good shape. Maybe you're already in good shape. Who am I to judge? I should have gone for a run. So, but instead I came down to do this, which is good. Let's see. So Knizia has been what I'm playing with the family and with a couple that's coming over. Like I said, I've got Apocalypse Road sitting over there. I need to get into that. The rules are read. I need to get some more playthroughs done. And I want to film another. Well, I've got some Red Alert over there I need to get going to after Apocalypse Road. And then I need to get my 11th mission of Hamtaggery filmed. Loving that. So, like I said, the catching the Rona kind of slowed me up, but I'm back to 110%. And I had work calling me today too. All right. Any questions for the show? Any questions about Hamtag? We got 9 of you in. I would like to go for another 15 minutes, but I won't keep you all here if we have nothing to talk about, which is totally fine. I'll give you a topic. So I brought up, and you saw game designer Van Overbay, talking about how his brothers got him playing chess when he was 3 or 4. Mine was trick-taking games at family reunions. What were the first games that you played? What were they? Now, Trevor can't comment because he's running or jogging. No, he went for a run, not a jog. So he won't be able to comment on this, and that's fine, Trevor. You can put it in the comments later. But if anybody has something that started in gaming, the other thing that really got me into board gaming, or the first board games at all, were both the parents of my older sister, 4 years older. And she would get bored over the summer and want to play Monopoly or Mousetrap. We had Payday. The family loved to play Sorry. My parents would break out this real cool, oh my gosh, now I'm going to mess the term up. Oh my. It was it's a card game where you've got your little pegs in, and my dad had a board with a fish, the Christian symbol. He was a pastor. My goodness, what is it called? I never actually learned it. Anybody. Vorpal's on, says, hello, crew. Hello, Vorpal. Good to have you on. We're talking about the games that you first played as a child. Who introduced you? Van was introduced to chess at age 3 and 4 by his brothers. Cribbage, that's it. Thank you. How could I forget cribbage? Cribbage, yeah, my dad had this cribbage board, which was a fish. And I would see my mom and dad playing it and go, what are you playing there? And they'd go, move along. And it seemed very serious. And I wanted to know. And I think dad tried to show me once, but I was too young. I got confused. And I was like, too abstract. And I haven't learned it. I need to learn it. I need to watch a YouTube show on just cribbage. I'm sure there's one out there that probably focuses exclusively on cribbage and cribbage only. You could probably do a show on the different types of cribbage boards that are out there and have shows for days and days. You name it, it's got a cribbage board. So, and it's probably got more subscribers than I do too. So saying that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell if you like getting notified when I do weird live shows like right now. Vorpal says, my family were Monopoly players. My folks did not play Monopoly. My sister loved it. And we never played by the rules. So they went on until everybody got bored and finally just broke up and left. We would have a lot of people come over because we lived in the mountains of Colorado. So a lot of family friends from all over the United States would visit and then go ski and use our house as a home base. And so a lot of kids played spoons at our house. I loved playing spoons. The secret nature of the very first spoon thievery was what I liked. If I could steal a spoon and gameplay continued until somebody thought they had the first set of 4 to do a spoon theft, and they reached down and went, what the hell? And then all hell broke loose. And then people were like, well, who took one? I did, like 5 minutes ago, dummies. That's what I liked, just with spoons. Vorpal says in the 90s, his mother played the Monopoly tournaments. Wow, Gen Con and Origins. Look at that, Vorpal. That is cool. That is really cool. Your mom's all OG. That is awesome. I like that. Ooh, Trevor's running, but he paused to tie his shoe and then typed in Hero Quest, Battle Masters, and Magic 94. I missed the Magic Train. The Magic Train I missed. I was board gaming with War Games. I got hired by the police department in 95. The 90s were my low gaming times. Busy with a girlfriend, then a fiance. Yeah, girlfriend, fiance, and then the job and school and the army. Boom. 90s were a busy time. And I shifted from liking 80s hairband rock to country music. Although Garth Brooks cried too much for me, I still liked his tunes. That guy started crying all the time. I was like, what are you doing? What is this? Let's see. What do we got here? Douglas says, Mr. D, I have 21 of your games. All right. See, so he will come on. We need a question for him for the future. So get ready for that. Jutland. Yep. That's his first one with Avalon Hill. Was wow. And your first Avalon Hill game. Love it still. Yep. Like a miniatures game. So Douglas, be thinking if you have any questions for Dunnigan. Now go listen to Strategy Talk. You can go binge listen now. Every other week or every third week, they've been coming out with an episode that just focuses on Jim's board gaming design and running of SPI and all of that. And so you can catch up on that. And then if you got a good question, I would love to serve it up for him. Dan Masterson will be on the show in the future. He's got some medical stuff that he talked about briefly that he's going to be dealing with. And then I think that's when he'll be on the show after that. Vorpal says Magic players equals card flopping mouth breathers. You know what I like is Richard Garfield was just trying to come up with some money to come up with his, his board games with the programmable movement with the Robo Rally. And he couldn't afford that, so he decided cards would be cheaper and creates Magic and creates what I like to say instead. He creates a gold mine or a bank or a pile of gold with a dragon that is left for the day. And then he still put out Robo Rally, which did okay, but not as good as Magic the Gathering. It's funny because I'll run into board gamers now that the Magic the Gathering was what brought them in. And I did not play a collectible card game until my son got Pokemon cards from McDonald's and wanted to play Pokemon. And then we went and bought some pre-made decks and battled. And it was okay. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes you couldn't get your stuff off. And my boy built his own deck. And then we were playing and there was a triggering event. Like, does this card trigger that, trigger that? I said, I didn't think it did. He said, no, it does. I said, well, let's go look it up because there's like a Pokemon site you can check. And he said, no, we're not checking it. That's what it does. And I go, oh, son, no, we have to check. And he didn't flip the table, but he cleaned up the cards and says, that's it. That's how it works. But I'm not playing anymore, which is a total loser move. Hi, chat says, team on 6219, said with some gusto. Vorpal up here, if I can click properly. Actually, I have a card game, The Last Crusade, the World War II collectible card game. It's actually a good game. Very cool. I like the sound of it. What does this say down here? The Last Crusade, Pinnacle Entertainment. All right, Pinnacle. What year did that come out, Vorpal? I'm drinking some bourbon. Wild Turkey, rare breed. Other than my Elijah Craig small batch or ECBP, this is probably my number 2. Let's see, 1993 says, 1993-ish. Very nice. Ish. Again, that was the hole in my gaming. That's when everybody, from what I've seen, was trying to come up with a collectible card game. Because if it hit, you made oodles and oodles of money. Oodles is a technical term, meaning a lot. I almost said a curse word. Then I went with a lot. I don't want to get demonetized. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We had 8 on. We had 9 and we lost 1 at one point in time. So maybe the oodles did it. We're going to go to 45 minutes just because I like doing a 45-minute rambling show. Let's see. I was live chatting with Dan Pancaldi yesterday. Very cool. I don't think I'm stealing his thunder, and maybe he already did it, but he was going to have Volko Rumke, the creator of the coin series, on his show. And Dan's doing, I like Dan's interviews with designers because Dan is like super friendly and it's like personable without Dan being strict. I mean, he's just like, come on the show. We're going to talk about stuff. And I like that. And so if you haven't seen Dan Pancaldi's No Enemies Here show, it's kind of in the line of bonding with board games. There's no enemies here. You're just bringing people together. And he talks about everybody that has shows and everything. It's great. So Vorpal, he hates Pikachu. Oh, my. Well, I had this on earlier, brother. Look at that. That's its own Pikachu hat. I think this was for my kid, and he's not as much of a Pikachu fan as well. I forget who he likes. Some kind of Firefox looking thing. And so I appropriated that Pikachu hat, and every once in a while I'll wear it on the show because I like it. All right. So we got Dan Pancaldi mentioned. Strategy Talk, Strategy Pages. Dan Masterson, Jim Dunnigan, Austin Bay. They'll have some other guests on there every once in a while that I can't remember the names of. Boy, Jim Dunnigan, when he talks about different parts of the world and, you know, how China's working with their jets or how Russia, he's got a whole old thing I read, which is real cool. That was when, basically when the Cold War ended and the wall came down, or the walls or whatever, that a lot of their talent left to go find paying jobs that paid really well. So they were super talented and people are willing to pay them a lot of money. And it really made it hard, or makes it hard to this day, for Russia to keep up with the talent pool. And it's very interesting to see how that's explained. Not to mention the oil issues and all that. And how the oil being so low, primarily because the United States is now a net exporter, whether you like fracking or not, it's really disrupted countries that basically rely just on oil for their revenue. And when the oil is at a low price for an extended amount of time, things start to get desperate, which is interesting. So, but they get into topics like that, and you're like, wow, I never even thought about that. And then when you're done, you feel like, it kind of feels like this is board gamer goofy. I feel like I'm in some kind of almost presidential press briefing, Tom Clancy. I'm getting briefed on the state of Yemen. Boom. And you'll get a little thing on strategy page about Yemen or something. And then it'll be in strategy talk, or they'll be talking about why Russia's hurting for money. And then you get into the oil and the fracking, and it's like, wow, I feel like I'm in a briefing, some kind of high level briefing. Sorry. Oh, what is Vorpal saying? I'm expecting a delivery. Me too. I ordered a 60 millimeter painted figure of Sergeant Rock. Yes. God, I love you even more, Vorpal. I loved military comics back in the day. Rock was my favorite. The Haunted Tank, was that it? With their little Stuart, which was crazy because it wouldn't have held up to anything. I think that was it. And then The Unknown Soldier, I love that one. I think that was it. Wow. I'm going to play him alongside my Vietnam era soldiers. That is awesome, Vorpal. Love it. Love it. Matter of fact, I was at a comic book store like a couple years ago, and they had these volume books of all these different Sergeant Rock comics that they weren't inked, but you could get them all. And I was like, deal. And I bought them all, these booked versions. I was reading those in the 80s, early 80s. And then I was also big into reading books, and I shifted over to legit history at that point in time. I'll always remember there was a cover where like Sergeant Rock's on the cover and he's naked and freezing in the snow. And there's like, they always had a tiger tank getting ready to shoot him or something. And some Nazi colonel was getting ready to shoot him. And I was like, oh, I got to have that. And I read that one. And that was actually a pretty good episode. I don't even remember what he did, but I remember him freezing. Trevor says he just got the Marvel Crisis Protocol everything. Half is primed right now. You guys are great. I'm not a painter. I did model work as a kid, but I just don't have, maybe it's the time right now. Maybe when I retire, I'll like it, but because I don't mind it. I keep buying stuff that I need to paint, and then I buy the paints and I'll paint something, and then I'll come back to it and the paints are all dried out. And I thought, dang, I dropped $50 on those paints. I could have bought a game. Timon, by chance, I went to the 1981 Origins, where SPI debuted Spies, the card game. This was when I realized SPI as War Games company was going downhill. Really? Do tell. Why were they going downhill? That was 81. I wasn't even into gaming yet. 83 is when I jumped in with B-17 Queen of the Skies. Subcommandant Day 73, waiting for my Soviet Army box for Team Yankee. Wow, I love Team Yankee, the book, to arrive. Lots of 50 millimeter scale plastic tanks to build and paint. Man, you guys are something else. You guys are awesome. Let's see. If you like that, then dig on this. King and Country, hello, UK. Toy Soldier Company. Yeah, oh yeah, they do great stuff. PSC. Or maybe it's a different Toy Soldier Company is not Plastic Soldier Company. So maybe I went off the rails there. Is taking pre-orders for 60 millimeter Colonel Kirby, John Wayne, and Green Beret. Wow. Trevor. So Dan had Volko and David Thompson. That was it. That's it. Last night. So that was alive then. And they talked about how they are messing up wargaming, moving away from hex and counter. Interesting. I wouldn't say it's messing it up. I think you can have genres, just like cards have come in, or solitaire came in, and all right, interesting. I'll have to go watch that now. Vorpal, I don't like to paint. I try to purchase all my figures pre-painted. Oh, okay. That's a big reason I buy those 60 millimeter toy soldiers. Okay. Good to know. I like Jim's game, Battle of Germany. It was unique, and one player is the Allies and Germany defending against Russia. Yeah, and the second player is Russia and Germany defending against the Allies. Yes, that was... that might be the design he created within 12 hours as well. I think somebody messed up and they had to get something done, and he'd had that idea kicking around, so he queued it up and shot it out, and it's been a great design. He talks about that in one of his shows. TSR began selling SPI's inventory in 82. Ah, okay. So I was just an Avalon Hill guy in 83. I never got into the magazines, other games. Avalon Hill was it, other than a few role-playing things from TSR. Let's see. Vorpal. I'm going to have Sergeant Rock, Walking Point Man for John Wayne in the Oshawa Valley. Very cool. Trevor Just. I agree there can be subgenres, but the best point was Hex and Counter Wargamers now don't have an award dedicated to traditional war games. BGG, Undaunted, CSR. Oh, U-Boat. Okay. Huh. I think that's fine. I mean, when there's a game of the year by whoever, you've had some co-op games winning, and some people say, well, those aren't really games or whatever. So here's what I see. As long as the war game, quote, genre is evolving, moving, adding, I like the adding on. I think you pull folks in who start to say, oh, I like the depth that is here with wargaming. Kabuki, hi, Chief, hi all, late to the party. Yeah, I was going to wrap it up at 45, and then the comments started flying in. If you guys watched the earlier part, I did a lot of hat changing. Douglas says, Trevor, so I'm jumping in on your all's conversation. Don't you like area movement games like Breakout Normandy? So, see, there's all that kind of stuff, and that brings that in. Or, yeah, CDGs, car-driven games. So, and that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I like what it's doing. So, but that is because solitaire games brought me in. Tactical games brought me into the hobby. Chief, you know what other comic books I used to read? I don't, sir. But he says, weird war tales, horror, war comics. Every so often, when the game sessions get routine, we'll come back to you. He had a long ellipsis, Star Wars style. That's 4 instead of 3. Well, let's see. Vorpal says, I throw a ghost or an alien or something else at my players just to spice things up. I'm getting ready to run an RPG session with some of my buddies and coworkers and my son using Fate Core, which is what I like the most. The theater of the mind is what I like. We were going to do a Western style post-Civil War, but it was with everything going on, I decided to steer clear of it. I have the game Aces and Eights, which has a whole alternate history, and I was going to co-opt that alternate history into Fate Core. It's awesome. It's alternate history, but what concerned me was the alternate, again, fake history of Aces and Eights is that in some way, they actually explain it. I can't remember all the details. The South either fought to some kind of a standstill or a peace, or they were backed by the England or something. And so the Confederate States of America exist. And then all this stuff kicked up. 2020 has been terrible. And I thought, you know what? I don't need any problems with the real job. I'm not going to play a game. So we didn't even get started on anything that has the CSA is still around. Right, wrong, or indifferent, those that don't play games, I don't think would understand that a role-playing genre is just a game. It's not an advocation of any kind of system or philosophy or anything. So that never happened. And I believe I'm still going to run a Fate Core, but I would rather run it in some kind of like Firefly universe or something. So put space cowboys out there just getting a job and having a ship, and put it in the future rather than the past. So let's not forget my day job. And I work in community policing, so I'm always working with these communities. And I didn't want anybody that didn't understand role-playing or gaming to not understand what was going on. Some of my RPG players that were going to come over thought I was being overly paranoid. I said, I am. But I've had rocks thrown at me in 2020, water bottles thrown at me in 2020, and I was shot at in 2020. Then I got the Rona after. And so I do not want any troubles that will pop up in the future, regardless, especially around my gaming. So, Trevor, there we go. And then we got Douglas Pearson, not a lot. Okay, sorry, I'm jumping in on your guys' conversation. Western post-war, so Mandalorian, oh my goodness. Again, I don't want to put out any spoilers, but if you haven't, oh man, I may even throw it up later. 2 years ago, my wife bought me this picture. It's Boba Fett flying backwards like he's using his jetpack, firing and releasing all kinds of weapons, and he's being shot at. And then it's one of those deals that's on multiple panels. So you've got the big panel, then 2 other panels a little smaller, and then 2 other panels that are a little smaller. At some point, I'll make it my thumbnail. Maybe I'll even come in and make it the thumbnail for this, although I like the Homer thumbnail. And I got that from my wife. I don't know where she bought it. And I never put it up. And we went and watched episode, 6? Boba Fett. And I went and broke it out and put it up on the wall. That's how good The Mandalorian is. Love it. Love The Mandalorian. What's Kabuki saying? Mandalorian season 2 has been so good. Yes. I love how they're doing what TV does well, chaining multiple episodes together into a giant arc. Love it. Do you like historical role-playing games? I suggest Night Witches, an all-female Soviet bomber group in 1944. Huh. You know what? I've never even heard of that, so I will look that up. That sounds interesting. My son is hilarious. So my son leans toward role-playing games in general. If there's a board game that has role-playing possibilities, from Simon with Zombicide, he loves doing that. But he likes pure role-playing as well. And I had this group over, and a seasoned role player GM ran it. He was using the system out of Sweden, that Twilight 2000, the remake that just kickstarted that I got in on used. And it was a high fantasy or it's low fantasy. And my boy played this, what turned out everybody now calls the serial killing elf. That was my boy. And he was unbelievable. The GM literally got with me later and said, your son was the most true role player in there. He stayed with his character and he did what his character thought, to the point that I was like, son, what are you doing? And the GM had to tell me, back off, let him do his thing. And I was like, yeah, okay. He was literally, we're escaping out of a prison. We're going through some area. We're getting ready to breach an open courtyard, but there was a guard and we were trying to figure it out. We're in a hidden area. And there was a cook working in a kitchen. And let's just say the serial killing elf wanders over there because he's thief-like, and he's going to steal some bread. So he steals the bread, rolls for it, successfully pulls it off. And then he says, how far away is this cook? And the GM tells him, and he goes, I pull out my knife. And at this point I go, I broke character. I go, what are you doing? What is this? And that's when I got, the GM corrected me, and he said, well, she's about 10 feet away. Yeah, you can do another stealth roll and see if you can get over there. But there's 2 young maidens that are helping her, and they're over there. And clearly the GM was handling it that rather than let the serial killing elf go in and kill this cook, he created other witnesses that would be very hard to take out. Very smartly done. Very smartly done. And I saw, not my son, but the serial killing elf weighing his options. And I thought, oh my God. And everybody at the table was spooked by this serial killing elf. And the boy did great. And I mean, these guys were older guys going, man, your elf was kind of freaky. But they still want to game with this elf because not only do they like having him on their party, but they're a little nervous. Like, you got to sleep with one eye open. That's how my son role plays. And he's good. He's so good. And so the crew wants to play another role-playing game in Fate Core. My boy prefers Fate Core. It's a little more open-ended. So that's what they've been calling for. Douglas, sorry, more conversations. I'm sorry, Chief, but honestly, with a face like that, you got to expect rocks, bottles, bullets to come flying your direction. Yeah, I'm all right with that. I'm all right with it. Just saying it's a heck of a year. Sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. Now I lost where we were. There we go. Trevor liked the comment, Vorpal. Vorpal just became Don Rickles. There we go. The Peanut Gallery Vorpal Bite. Be careful, Chief. Can't face the truth. I can face it. I got a serial killing elf that lives in my house. I'm good to go. Might have better luck if he counter faces the truth. I don't know what that is. See, I didn't know all this was going on while I was telling my serial killing elf story. Chief, that is disgusting. I'm glad whoever shot at you was a bad shot. Well, he shot at a group of us. Luckily, only one of our guys caught a ricochet. It's real interesting. The first people the bottle throwers call. Yeah, I know. That's just life, though. That is life. I used to ask my parents, because when I was playing games and reading history, I asked them, what was it like when these veterans were coming back from Vietnam? Because I couldn't understand it. I was a patriotic young kid that was really into military history, Sergeant Rock, the glorified side of it. World War II was way more my thing. But I knew about the Chosin Reservoir in Korea and what the Marines did. And I was always just very impressed by everybody that served in the military. So I was confused as a young lad about the spitting on them and stuff. And my dad said, well, we didn't see a lot of that where we lived, because we were in Wichita, Kansas, and is what it is. And what's funny is, if you look at the space race and watching, from the Earth to the moon and all that's going on at the same time as well. And I remember thinking, man, I think I would have been working with that rather than at Woodstock. I had told a buddy that, and he's like, what do you mean? I go, I don't know. I could see myself trying to get a job working at NASA, doing whatever, running for coffee, rather than being out dancing in the mud. And he looked at me like I was goofy, because he would have rather been at Woodstock. I would have rather been seeing Apollo 11 go or something. Night Witches, Bully Pulpit. Okay, good. I'll have to look into that. Where are we at here? Douglas Pearson, finishing somebody looks at them cross-eyed. Finishing somebody looks at them cross-eyed as a police officer. Sorry, I messed that up. I don't know. Here we go. Serial Killer Elf. Laugh out loud. Love that. Yeah, my boy played it. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And the GM handled it perfect by basically making it where he wasn't, with a long odds to pull off the what would have been just a murder, because he'd already taken the bread. We were all like, what? I asked him later, and he was like, well, Dad, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what the elf would have done. I was like, I love you, boy. You gamer boy. Douglas Pearson, curious, have you ever had to pull or use your gun? Oh, we won't go into that, Douglas. But we'll start with the first half of it. 95 in Wichita, Kansas was crazy. I think we had 55 homicides in the city that year. And in the area I worked, it was extremely hazardous. And there was a rookie in my class that worked on like a nicer part of town. And he asked me, we're at this training deal. He goes, man, I've pulled my gun like 6 times. I was like, you know the count? He's like, yeah, don't you? I'm like, can't tell you the amount of times. I can tell you the worst one was I pulled the guy over for a simple like turn violation. And right as I was getting the patrol vehicle stopped, he jumped out of his car and rushed my patrol car. But he had his hands way up, but he was big and stout. And he came at me real mean face with his hands up, yelling, shoot me, MFer. I was like, what? I just stopped him for like a turn violation. And I had to get that gun because you pull, and I pulled him to get back in the car, and he rushed me. And can't shoot anybody like that. So I had to get it holstered back up, because if you're going to go hands-on, you don't want your gun out because you're more likely to get killed by your own gun. So I had to get it back in the holster. I got it back in the holster. I did not get it snapped. You really want to get it snapped. I switched to what's called a level 3 holster, which that's all inside baseball. But a level 3 holster, when you drop it in, it clicks, and it's got a little secret way you unlock it. So you could knock me out with my level 3 holster, and you probably wouldn't be able to figure out how to get it out of the holster. It's about $120 holster, and they don't issue it to you. So I went and bought it after that. But I got the gun back in my holster, but it's not secure, which is dangerous. Went hands-on. I'm 6'6", 225 at the time, 250 now. Oops. And got hands-on, and he complied. He followed everything. I ended up just issuing him a ticket. And then I said, why did you jump out of your car and rush back to the patrol car yelling? And he said, I didn't like that you pulled me over. Okay, well, you scared the bejesus out of me. So that was, no, it wasn't suicide by cop. He was just angry. And I think he was having a bad day. And he gave me quite a fright. I was like, oh my. Oh my. And yeah, we chatted because I was like, what were you doing? I mean, I'd never had that. I haven't had that since. And I thought for sure he was coming for me and must have a warrant or something. And I stayed behind my door, got my gun holster, and then came around. And as soon as I got hands on him, I thought the fight would be on, and he complied. They called unemployed stormtroopers. I don't know what that is. Maybe I missed it. Douglas Pearson, I take it you're a big Jane Fonda fan. I know. That's what killed me when she went over to the north and then sat on one of the anti-aircraft guns. But it was different times. So she made peace with her father, who was very patriotic. I figure if she can make peace with her father, she can just make peace with me. Hanoi Jane, she was hot 60 years ago. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Kabuki Kid. Hey, that's a real role player. I'm just being true to my character. Yes, I know. That's why the GM told me later. He pulled me aside and said that was one of he said by far he was the best, and he'd role play him anytime, with him anytime. I don't know what that means. I know it's Vietnamese. Suicide by cop. That was my answer to that. Trevor Just by cop. My buddy's a cop here in California. That happened to him. 100% sucks. Oh yeah. I mean, you got to be ready for it. You never know what you're dealing with, but it was interesting. 25 pounds just added muscle. I wish. Oh boy, I wish. I still kept my rookie pants. I had to get rid of them now because we changed from a brown uniform to a blue uniform, but it was size 34 waist. And it was funny because now I'm a 40 waist. Woo. And my wife had seen these pants back when we were in the same uniform and said, why are you holding on to these? Because I had only one pair left. And I told her, those are my cancer pants. And she went, oh. I said, actually, that's funny, but I'm being serious. We had a cop. Sadly, he did pass. He was a good guy. But he got cancer, and he couldn't fit in any of his pants except his rookie pants from when he was in his early 20s. So I always held on to my 34 waist pants, not jeans. And but yeah, my wife won't ask me about pants anymore. My cancer pants. He could have been shot by a different cop, maybe in a different place. Sure. Yeah, I mean, anything could happen. It was just stunning to me. But like I said, when I was a kid and got pulled over, I was always so nervous. My hands would stay on the wheel. And I would just, yes or no, sir. I was nervous as all get out. The idea of jumping out and rushing back, not an option when I was a kid. Still is for her age. What do they give rookie cops? The brown pants. Nope, that was our uniform back in the day. Back in the day, we had a brown uniform. They actually called them pink tans and a khaki shirt. And they bought the pants in particular when the Army guys in 46 or 7 switched uniforms and they got them all super cheap. So the whole department went from blues to browns. And now the browns were super expensive and everybody was going to navy blue or black. So they switched back. In Wichita, Kansas, the tans were actually a lot cooler in the summer and it made sense. And I had a German Shepherd, so you couldn't tell how much she shed. She's passed now. Until I switched to the dark uniform. Boy, you could tell with that. I had to have 3 different rollers just to keep all that dog hair off me. Vorpal. Then I'll wrap this up, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. Your mama is so ugly. The whole world faked a pandemic just to make her wear a mask. Wow. Vorpal. But I read it. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Good job, guys, gals. We ended up going an hour 9, not 109, an hour 9 rather than the 45 minutes. And we ended with a mama joke. Always good. All right. Game it, you gamer gods. Feed the niche. What's this last one? He's got another one. You guys can read that on the side. All right, we'll wrap it up. Don't forget, start thinking of your questions for Jim Dunnigan. Go check out Strategy Talk, and you can look up those Dunnigan podcasts where he talks about gaming back in the day, if that's what you're interested in. See you guys later. Everybody's saying bye and bye.